Jake Carter had spent years fixing cars, but nothing prepared him for the night he skipped Thanksgiving dinner to help a stranded family. It was supposed to be a simple repair, a quick fix before heading home. But when he found out who they really were, his entire life changed in an instant. The garage was quiet, except for the soft hum of a radio playing an old country song. The other mechanics had left hours ago, off to celebrate Thanksgiving with their families. Jake Carter should have been gone too. But where would he go? His parents were long gone. His siblings had moved out of state, and he had no wife or kids waiting for him. Thanksgiving had never felt like much of a holiday, just another reminder of what he didn't have. So, instead of sitting in his apartment with a frozen dinner, he stayed late, tinkering with an old Chevy that had been giving him trouble all week. Then the shop phone rang. He almost ignored it. No one was calling for a car repair on Thanksgiving night, but something, a gut feeling, made him pick up. "Hello?" A frantic voice crackled through the line. "Please, our car broke down on the highway. We've been waiting for hours and no one else is answering." Jake exhaled, rubbing his forehead. Every other shop in town was closed for the holiday. He should have said no. He had no obligation to help. Then, in the background, he heard a child's voice, soft, shivering. "Daddy, it's so cold." Jake gritted his teeth. "Damn it." "Text me your location," he said. "I'll be there in 30 minutes. The highway was nearly deserted when Jake pulled up behind the stranded SUV. It was a sleek, top-of-the-line model, the kind of car that cost more than he made in a year. A man stood outside, rubbing his hands together for warmth. The moment he saw Jake, relief flooded his face. "You must be the mechanic," the man said. "Yeah," Jake replied, stepping out and grabbing his toolbox. "What happened?" "Car just died out of nowhere. No warning signs, no engine light. Just shut down." Jake nodded, already popping the hood. 5 minutes under there, and he knew the problem. "Your alternator's fried," he said, wiping his hands on a rag. "Battery's completely drained. You're not driving anywhere tonight." The man sighed heavily. "Figures. We were trying to make it home in time for dinner." Jake glanced toward the car. A woman sat in the passenger seat, wrapped in a thick coat. In the back, a little girl, no older than 6, stared at him with wide, tired eyes. "You got a place to stay?" Jake asked. The man hesitated. "Not really. We were supposed to be at my brother's place 3 hours ago." Jake sighed, tossing his rag aside. "All right. I've got a spare alternator back at the shop. I can swap it out tonight." The man's eyes widened. "You'd do that?" Jake shrugged. "Kid shouldn't be out here in the cold." Gratitude filled the man's face. "I don't even know how to thank you." Jake smirked. "You can start by paying me when I'm done." The man laughed, clapping Jake on the shoulder. Fair enough. What Jake didn't know was that in just an hour, he wouldn't be charging them a dime, because by the end of the night he'd learn exactly who he was helping, and it would change his life forever. Jake worked in silence, his hands moving with practiced ease as he replaced the alternator. The cold air bit at his fingers, but he ignored it. He'd done tougher jobs in worse conditions. The man stood nearby, watching. "You do this often? Rescue stranded strangers on Thanksgiving night?" Jake smirked, tightening a bolt. "Only when I don't have anywhere else to be." The man's expression shifted slightly, like he understood more than he let on. "No family?" Jake exhaled through his nose. "Not anymore." The man nodded, but didn't pry. Instead, he leaned against the SUV, shoving his hands into his coat pockets. Still, not many people would have answered that call, let alone come out here in the middle of the night. Jake shrugged. Somebody's got to do it. He finished tightening the last bolt and wiped his hands on a rag. "All right, give it a shot." The man slid into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine roared to life. Inside the car, the little girl clapped her hands. "Mommy, we can go home now." The woman sighed in relief, turning to smile at Jake. "Thank you so much. You have no idea how much this means to us." Jake waved a hand. "Just doing my job." The man stepped out, reaching for his wallet. "How much do I owe you?" Jake shook his head. "It's Thanksgiving. Just get your family home safe." The man froze, staring at him. "You're serious?" Jake nodded. A strange silence settled between them. The man studied him for a long moment before slipping his wallet back into his coat. "You don't even know who we are, do you?" Jake raised an eyebrow. "Should I?" The woman chuckled from inside the car. "This is a first." The man reached into his pocket, not for cash, but for something else. He pulled out a business card and handed it to Jake. Jake took it, glancing at the name, and then his breath caught in his throat. "Mark Reynolds, Chief Executive Officer of Reynolds Automotive." Jake's fingers tightened around the card. No way. Reynolds Automotive was one of the biggest luxury car manufacturers in the country, and Jake had just fixed the car of the man who owned it all. Mark smirked at Jake's stunned expression. "I've been looking for someone like you." Jake blinked. "What?" "You didn't just fix my car," Mark said. "You gave up your time. You showed up when no one else would. That tells me everything I need to know." Jake's heart pounded. Mark clapped a hand on his shoulder. "Come by my office Monday morning. I think I might have an opportunity for you." Jake stared at him. 1 hour ago, he was just another mechanic, skipping Thanksgiving alone. Now, a billionaire was offering him a job. His whole life could change in a matter of days, and all because he picked up the phone when no one else did. Jake sat in his truck long after Mark Reynolds and his family had driven away, gripping the business card like it might disappear if he let go. Was this real? 1 minute, he was just another mechanic, skipping Thanksgiving dinner because he had no one to spend it with. The next, a billionaire was offering him an opportunity. His gut told him it wasn't just about the repair. Mark Reynolds had been testing him. Jake sighed, tossing the card onto the dashboard. Was this even worth considering? Reynolds Automotive was one of the biggest car manufacturers in the country, known for their cutting-edge designs and high-performance vehicles. Working there meant leaving everything behind: his shop, his routine, the only life he'd ever known. But then again, what did he really have here? A near-empty apartment, a job that barely paid the bills, no family to come home to. For the first time in years, an actual opportunity was in front of him, and for the first time he wasn't sure if he was ready to take it. By Monday morning, Jake found himself standing in front of Reynolds Automotive headquarters. The towering glass building felt 1,000 miles away from the grease-stained garage he was used to. His worn-out boots felt out of place on the pristine marble floors as he stepped inside. A receptionist greeted him with a warm smile. "Mr. Carter?" Jake cleared his throat. Yeah. Mr. Reynolds is expecting you. Follow me." Jake followed her down a long hallway, his heart pounding. What the hell was he doing here? Finally, she stopped in front of a large office and pushed the door open. Inside, Mark Reynolds stood by the window, hands in his pockets. When he turned around, he grinned. "Didn't think you'd show up." Jake smirked, crossing his arms. "Didn't think I would either." Mark motioned for him to sit. "I'll cut to the chase, Jake. I don't just need mechanics. I need people who actually understand cars. People who care about the work they do." Jake raised an eyebrow. "And you think that's me?" Mark leaned forward. "I know it is. That night on the highway? You didn't just fix my car. You saw my family, saw the situation, and stepped up. That's rare." Jake stayed quiet, unsure what to say. Mark slid a contract across the desk. "I want you on my team, head technician in our new division. Name your salary." Jake's breath hitched. Head technician? He had expected some low-level job in a factory, not this. He hesitated. "Why me?" Mark smiled. Because when no one else answered the call, you did. Jake looked at the contract, then at the man sitting across from him. This was it, his shot at something bigger. Slowly, he reached for the pen, and for the first time in years, he chose something more.